Hello everyone, I'm Debbie Polachek. I am a Stampin' Up demonstrator. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be making this card here. It's made from the Breathless Bouquet, and I also used the band together to make my sentiment and the little filigree backing to the sentiment here. I used the leaf punch here. I also made a box envelope for it, which I have made with my bow maker here. This is a free item that I offer for people that order $100 or more of Stampin' Up products the first time. So if you do want to make a Stampin' Up order, you will get this for free. I used several colors of the alcohol markers to make this. I'll list everything below that I used. Included now the paper, like most cards I make, I start off with the idea and then I just kind of work with it, and if it works out good, then I kind of make the card as I go here on this video. So I will not give you all the pieces that we used all in the beginning like most people do, like you should do, but I just, like I said, I only make it as I go, so I really don't know what I'm gonna do until I get there. So anyway, throughout the video there will be different things that I cut, and I'll give you all those measurements through the video. So anyway, let's get started. Today we're going to kind of be starting in the middle of a card here, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what we've done so far. I have colored with my markers, and I'm going to color a piece of it right now, but it's the Breathless Bouquet, and I stamped it with the Memento ink, and of course used my alcohol markers and did all the coloring. This is their black background, which is a real dark gray actually. And then after I got through coloring it up, I used I cut it to 5 1/4 by 4. I got a piece of black cardstock that's 11 by 4 1/4, and I took it on the long side and scored it at 5 1/2 and 8 1/4. And this will be folded up like this shape here. And I cut a piece of foam board that was 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. Okay, and I'm gonna need another piece of foam board. Another piece of foam board cut 3 1/2 by 1 1/4 inch. This is a mat that is going to be, that's 5 1/4 by 4. It's a whisper white mat. Then I have another piece of cardstock that is 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. Oh, I also glued 3 pieces of scrap cardstock together that we're going to be using in a little bit. Stamped it again. I stamped it with the Memento ink, but I only stamped about half of it this time. I don't need the whole thing, because this is going to be the part that will go to hold your easel up, the little kind of a stair step, and I'm going to make it just like the card itself. So now I'm going to go through and paint all this, and I'm going to go ahead and copy the colors that I have here. We'll need about 2 inches is all I need. So no use coloring if it's not necessary. And I probably want an area that has more of the different colors with some of the black background. In other words, I don't want all that rose there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that rose kind of right basically in the middle. That's about 2 inches. Maybe give you a little bit more because some of that edge is going to have to be cut off. I'm going to start off with the greeny. That's what I did last time, and that seemed to go pretty well. I'm making all the disc leaves in this light grainy apple. And if I go out of the line, it's okay, because I'm going to come back and do the background in the black. So it's not going to be that important if I mess out a line a little bit. There's a lot of color in here. It really doesn't take as long as I thought it would to color it. And since I'm filling in a lot of area, like right now, I go ahead and use the brush tip. And if I don't fill in a lot of area, I kind of like to use the sharper end of it. I think they call it the bullet end. Okay, so I'm used all the light green there. And on the rose looking leaves, I used the old olive to darken the light. Again, I'm going to use that soft end. I believe that was all of that. Kind of go behind the shadows, behind each leaf with the dark, like one overlaps the other one, go with one in the back. That would be a shadow area. That was behind a flower, would be the shadow area. Probably down the center of each one would be a shadow area. And a lot of times this is kind of the bottom of the shadows, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit on the bottom of each one of these leaves. So that would pretty well cover it. I'm not going to go through and do all the shadowing of these. Just don't think it's that much necessary. Okay, these are pretty skinny leaves, and I'm using the light mossy meadow for these. I'm using the light Highland heather for they look like lilacs to me. Then I'll go inside the center with the dark Highland heather. Just go in the center and darken it up a bit of the flowers. The center part of a flower is always the darkest, and again behind each petal would be the darkest. Okay, now we're going to do the little blue ones, and I'm doing that in looks like let's see for sure. Yeah, I did them in the dark balmy blue, the whole thing. Okay, with a light navy in the centers. Now, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and put a little of this here in the centers of the flower, and very little behind each petal. If you really wanted to show dimension here. This is behind that petal. These are petals in the back. And then you go back with your light, and the bullet end is what I like to use, and just basically just scrub those together. And that causes it to bleed into the light and fade and blend, basically. Okay. Now we're going to do the rose and the rococo rose. I'm going to definitely have to write those down, because I sure don't know how to say that. And I'm going to go through the whole thing with the light first. Again with the brush end. Brush end just fills in a lot of area a lot faster. Now I can go through and take my time and do just a couple leaves at a time. That will give you a better blend. But I'm not too worried about making this picture perfect. I'm just wanting to get some color in there, get it on there, and be done with it. Okay. Now I'm going to put some of the darker, again, behind each leaf. And since this is the bottom side of the flower, it would be in the most in shadow. So you make the little areas that you're putting in there a little bit bigger than you would do on the top. And the reason for that is because a flower, each leaf has lights and darks, but the flower itself is like a round ball. So the shadow side of the flower would be darker on the bottom than it would be on the top. That's the reason for the darker, and it makes the whole flower gives the whole flower more of a realistic look without much work. Okay, so this, in other words, would be a little bit darker in here, a little bit broader. So you can tell it on this picture here. I've got less dark, more lights here, more darks, less lights on this side. Again, I'm going to get the bullet in, kind of blend the colors together where I want them to blend. Sometimes if they're cast shadows, you don't need to blend them at all. A cast shadow would be this shadow here. It doesn't really have to be blended at all, because this cast shadow is casting from another leaf in front of it. But nobody is looking that hard at this. I guarantee you they're not. You are probably looking harder than anybody else. So don't worry if your color skills are not perfect. Mine are far from perfect. The main thing for me is just to get the color in there. Okay, the same with this. See, as this would be a circle, so all this right here would be dark because it's all going to be in shadow. This probably would be a cast shadow. Let's say this is a cast shadow from this leaf here. So we'll just keep that one hard. This would be a little soft shadow, a little soft cast shadow as well, but still it would be a little bit softer because it's rolling over to the other part. So I'm going to leave that hard shadow there, but I'm going to blend the other one a little bit more. And this one should be light. Okay, or lighter. Now for this flower I used the dark, the coral, Calypso corals. And again, I'm going to start off with the brush in with the lights. Okay, here we go with the bottom side again. The more darker, bigger the shadow should be. Go back with the lighter and the bullet in. So we'll go ahead and just blend those all in. It's dark, basic black. And I'm just going to go behind with the sharp end, behind all these little leaves and flowers. Now this one needs to be 1 3/4. So I think I'm going to cut off just a smidgen off of this, just because it's got that little light on the end. And I'm going to cut this to be 1 3/4. 4 inches. So I need to make sure that it's got 4 inches, and if it's not quite, I need to go back with my color and color that. And it looks like it's going to be fine. I think I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit more off of this and make this end 4 inches. Is that right? Yeah, 4 inches. Okay. Now that piece of 3 pieces of paper I told you to glue together, or scraps. Now is when we're going to use this. I'm going to bunt my 3 stacks of stack of 3 papers there together. I'm going to bunt it against here, and I'm going to bunt my cardstock that I just painted to that piece of paper. I don't want to go underneath it. I want to leave a little bit of a gap. And I'll take my score, and I'm going to score it 1/4 of an inch all the way around. Again. then on the short side, I'm just nip to that first score line, on the first score line up to that part there. Then I'm going to take these and fold all the scored lined areas. Now I need to go cut another piece of the foam board. And like I said, I wanted to cut the foam board, cut it 3.5 by 1 1/4. And to do that, I just go ahead and put in my Stampin' Up cutter. Pop this back. Now I'm going to cut the rest with my scissors. I'm going to go ahead and glue my little bitty ends together. I use glue, but I found it would be easier if you just went ahead and used glue dots. Those glue dots are really a good idea sometimes. And this is one of them sometimes. Now I'm going to take my foam board. I'm going to take a little bit of a glue that. Actually, that's good. Wouldn't hurt just to slip a little bit of glue. Behind this. Kind of glue that down. Now we're going to go ahead and glue this down. Again, I'm going to run some glue against the sides here. Look what I had. I had my ink pad open. That was not real smart. Oh my goodness, I'm going to cut a new one. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue this to the top. I'll hold this down flush and this over the whole thing, so as straight as I can make it. I'm going to glue this to this. Center this in here. Okay, I got some things to finish up my card here. And some different items. I brought in this band together set, and I used this die and this die to cut these two. And I just used part of this one because it just seemed more appropriate for what I needed it for. So anyway, and also I cut 2 more pieces of the Whisper White cardstock. I cut one 4 by 3/8, and then one 1 3/4 by 4. And I'm going to mat this on top of this, and straight onto my deal. And where do I want it? I want to probably put it a little higher, probably more above the rose right there. It's kind of a little higher on mine. Then I'm going to go ahead and glue these little things down, these little tabs. This would make awesome, this set would make awesome belly bands. I haven't used it. This is the first time I've used it, but what a cute set this is. And that, of course, that daffodil works with our flowers here too, doesn't it? That would be a real, use this just as a background, maybe emboss it with white embossing on a soft colored paper, and then do the daffodil in front. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Yes, this stamps, both of these stamp sets are really cool for so many different things. Now, I'm going to take my sentiment and put this in the middle. Be sure to grab a little bit on the outside edge so it'll grab that filigree of this die here. Glue that right in the middle. Try to be patient just for a second, but definitely optional. And I'm going to take the leaves and go ahead and curl the leaves And I think it would be a good choice to sponge the edge of this one. I'm going to go ahead and just sponge it with black. As you can see, I'm using pieces of dimensionals under the back of those leaves. I also added a pair of the leaves on the bottom of the sentiment as well. It made me think of this, doing this on the edge there, that a lot of the new paintings these days are done with a thicker canvas, and the paint either runs off the side or is continued on the side, and I thought that was a cool look for that. I don't think it's anything somebody else has thought of yet. There we go. Now, try to center that up. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this one here. Put that in the center here, trying to leave just as much as I left there. And center it in here. Between the faux line all the way around. Now this one I'll glue in the middle of here. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the card today. I think it turned out very elegant looking. So give me a thumbs up, share the video. Appreciate your orders down below. Thank you. Bye-bye.